Fifth grade, we are ready for math lesson 163 today. This morning we're going to start off with our concept cards again. We are going over our fractions, and you give the decimal that goes with the fraction. Remember, we'll keep learning these more as we go. Give yourself time to learn them, and then we'll get into our other cards. So first of all, what is the decimal for the fraction 1/2? 0.5. 1/4. 0.25, 3/4, 0.75, 1/5, 0.2, 2/5, 0.4, 3/5, 0.6, or you could say 6/10, 4/5, 0.8, or again 8/10. All of these, if it's one place, you read it as tenths, two places hundredth, and three places thousandth. I'm just going to say them that way for the rest of these. 1/8, 125,000. 3/8, 375,000. 5/8, 625,000. 7/8, 875,000. 1/3, 3/10 repeating. 2/3, 6/10 repeating. 1/6, 1600th with the 6 repeating. 5/6, 8300th with the 3 repeating. 1 square foot equals how many square inches? 144. 1 square yard equals how many square feet? 9. 1 square mile equals how many acres? 640. 1 acre equals how many square feet? 43,560. 1 millennium equals how many years? 1,000. 1 century equals how many years? 100. 1 year equals how many months? 12. 1 year equals how many days? 365. 1 week equals how many days? 7. 1 day equals how many hours? 24. 1 hour equals how many minutes? 60. 1 minute equals 60 seconds. 1 yard equals 3 feet. 1 foot equals 12 inches. Deca means 10. Hecto, 100. Kilo, 1,000. Milla, 1,000th. Centa, 100th. Dessa, 1/10. 1 peck equals how many quarts? 8. 1 bushel equals how many pecks? 4. 1 pound equals how many ounces? 16. 1 ton equals how many pounds? 2,000. 1 mile equals how many feet? 5,280. 1 mile equals how many yards? 1,760. 1 meter equals 10 decimeters. 1 meter equals 100 centimeters. 1 meter equals 1,000 millimeters. 1 kilometer equals 1,000 meters. 1 hectometer equals 100 meters. 1 decameter equals 10 meters. 1 quart equals 2 pints. 1 gallon equals 4 quarts. 1 pint equals 2 cups. 1 tablespoon equals 3 teaspoons. 1 cup equals 8 fluid ounces, and 1 pint equals 16 fluid ounces. Okay, so let's get into our lesson today. We're talking about division with a decimal divisor. So we've already had division problems where we had a decimal point in our dividend. But now we have division problems where we also have a decimal point in our divisor. But we cannot divide our problem until we get rid of the decimal point in our divisor. So in order to do that, what we're going to do, we've been talking recently about how when you multiply a decimal by a power of 10, you move the decimal point to the right for every 0 in the power of 10 that you're multiplying by. When you divide a decimal by a power of 10, you move the decimal point to the left. If you divide by 10, you move it to the left 1 place. If you divide by 100, you move it to the left 2 places. So now we're going to use that when we divide and when we figure out how to work these problems. So if we want to get rid of the decimal point in our divisor, what could we multiply by or divide by to move the decimal point here, where now our number would be 43. It would just be a whole number. It wouldn't have a decimal point in it anymore. What would we have to do? Now notice that if we would multiply 4.3 by 10, we would simply move our decimal point 1 place to the right. So now it would be 43 and it would have no decimal, okay? Now we can do that, but if we do that to the divisor, we also need to do it to the dividend, okay? So if we do the same thing to both of these, if we multiply them both by a power of 10, the answer to our division problem will be the same as it would have been if we would have just divided it like this, okay? So we want to get rid of our decimal point. So let's multiply 4.3 by 10. That gives us 43, right? Because we're moving our decimal point over to here. So now we have 43 as a whole number. We don't even have to have our decimal point there because it's all the way to the right. So now we also need to multiply our dividend by 10. So that means that we're going to move our decimal point 1 place to the right as well. Now we can divide because we do not have a decimal point in our divisor anymore. So let's go ahead and divide now. We'll take 335 divided by 43. So let's try 6 here. Multiply. Possibly 7 would work. Let's see if 7 would work here. Yes, it would. So let's use the number 7. We need to subtract. So subtract 301. Now bring down. Okay, now we need to multiply again. Let's try multiplying by 8. That comes out perfectly. Okay, now we need to write our decimal point in our quotient. So we just put it right above, we put it in our quotient right above where it is in our dividend. And our answer is 7,800. And if we would not have moved the decimal points, our answer would have still been the same thing. As long as we multiply our dividend and our divisor by the same power of 10, it's not going to change our answer. It's just going to help us so that we can divide our problem. So let's try that for the next problem here. We want to get rid of our decimal point again. So what do we have to multiply by to get rid of our decimal point? If we multiply by 10, our decimal point gets moved right here again, and we have 92. So let's do the same thing to this. Multiply this number by 10. Okay, now remember, when you multiply by a power of 10, you're just moving your decimal point to the right, however many zeros you have in the number you multiplied by. So we're multiplying by 10, so we're just moving our decimal point 1 place to the right, and that's what we did here too. Okay, so now we have 92, and we have 5,934. Okay, so we can just get rid of that because they're all the way to the right. Now we can divide. Okay, I'm not going to take time to divide that problem, but your rule today, simply follow that, what we just worked here on the board. To eliminate the decimal point, multiply your divisor and your dividend by the power of 10 that you need to eliminate the decimal point. And if you do the divisor and the dividend, you multiply them by the same power of 10, it's not going to change your answer. And then you divide like normal. Okay? Also, let's just go over how to divide by a power of 10 with a decimal up here. So again, we just got done talking about this. Instead of multiplying and moving our decimal point to the right, when we divide, we move our decimal point to the left. So let's say we would divide 4 8/10 by 10. We would simply move our decimal point one place to the left, and we would have 4,800, okay? Now, what if we want to divide 4 8/10 by 100? Then we have to move our decimal point 2 places. So it's all the way over here, which means we have to have another 0 in here. Now our answer would be 48,000. Okay? Now, if we would want to multiply by 1,000, we would have to move our decimal point 3 places. And that means we have to put 2 zeros in here for these 2 places. And our answer would be 48,000. Okay? So, work your lesson carefully. Look over your rule again before you get started on your problems. Let me know if you have any questions about this. And do the best that you can. Have fun working your lesson.